Hello guys, got the final part of the Katran stock build here for you today, and what I thought we'd do in this one is show you a little bit of the sanding and the shaping. So what we're making here is a little forend piece that's going to go on the underneath of the M-lock handguard that's fitted to the Katran, and what that'll do is just bring the forend down a little bit, better for standing shots, and it should be a little better off a bag, and overall I think it'll make the rifle look a little more balanced. We saw Tilly's gun stocks do a similar idea, and his one came out really nice, so we thought we'd try one on our rifle. We're not making these to sell or anything like that, so hopefully you won't mind. But as you can see in the background, my dad's starting to shape the forend piece. Me and my dad do a lot of the airgun stuff together. I do most of the machine work, most of the building and all the videos and that, and he does the woodwork, comes up with most of the ideas, and is also quite prevalent on the forums. So it's very much a joint effort. In the background there you see him working away with a rasp. The rasp really does take out material quite quickly. We don't have a proper woodworking setup, so this is the best we got at the moment, and the rasp's used to take out a lot of the bulk material. Cuts through it quite nicely. As you can see there, a radius is already forming on that corner, and with a little bit of effort the rough shape starts to get formed. This forend piece is nothing complicated. It's just tapered along the three sides, but we always try and make it look nice and even and make sure the laminate lines line up on each side. So once it's to rough shape, it's time to bring out the power sander, or in our case, a Delrin sanding drum attached to a cordless drill. The woodworkers among you will probably laugh at that, but it does work quite nicely. So that's a little sanding drum we knocked up on the lathe, just a Delrin drum with a steel shaft and then sandpaper glued to the outside. We use 60 grit at first, just to get the rough shape, get all the rasp marks out of it, then we slowly work up the grades to about 120. After 120, it gets sanded by hand. Sanding wood is fairly similar to sanding metal, in that if you don't get rid of the big scratches nice and early on, they do show up in the final end result. So if you were to oil it with a load of big scratches in there, you'd get lots of lines, lots of dark patches in your laminate. Definitely something we want to avoid. But that's the general idea of how we did all the sanding. The stock was the same, although a little more complex, but my dad just took it nice and slowly and did a little bit at a time. Once all the sanding and the shaping was done, it was time to oil the stock. Now the stock at this point has already had about 7 or 8 coats of oil, so there's already a good layer of oil on the stock, and my dad's just flattening off the previous layer, just with some 2000 grit sandpaper, just to get rid of any lumps and bumps. Once it's flattened off, it's time to put the next layer on, and since there's already a good amount of oil on the stock, we're just putting on very light coats at the moment. It's very important with the true oil to do lots of little shallow coats rather than a couple big heavy coats. If you don't do nice light coats, what happens is the oil builds up too thick and it doesn't go off properly. So what you end up with is a sticky and soft finish, which is something we definitely want to avoid. To apply the true oil, what we're using is just a balled up piece of rag. You want to rub the oil into the wood rather than just wiping it over the top. That just helps it get into all the little nooks and crannies, all the little holes, and fills them up. So each individual coat is probably only a 10 to 15 minute job, but it has to be left overnight to dry out properly. So the first few coats can go on fairly quickly, one after another, but once the oil starts building up in the wood, more time has to be left between coats to ensure that the oil dries properly before you put the next layer over the top of it. Right then, that's how we did the stock. So I'll bring you back into the workshop and we'll start fitting all the bits. Right then, and that was how we made everything. So hopefully you can see through the video there how everything was done, sort of how we approached things. I know we couldn't show everything in the video, especially the stock shaping. It was quite difficult to film, so we only got you a few glances of that. Hopefully you can see how it was done. But it's all finished now, so what I've done is I've put the Katran back to stock, so we've still got our red laminate pieces on that come from the factory. We've put the original shroud on, and what I thought we'd do is go through and fit all the bits so you can see what sort of transformation the rifle goes through. So we'll start off with the rear stock, and first what we're going to do is remove the grip. So our 5mm Allen key in the back there, undo that and pull the grip off. Next we'll flip the rifle over and undo these 2 screws there. That's with a 3mm Allen key. Once those 2 screws are out, we can slide the cock and handle forward, rotate the rear of the stock round, and then just push out that pin there, like so. We'll need that in a minute, but once that's done, that can be pulled off, and that's the entire folding mechanism of the rifle off. We will need this little cover plate here, So using a Torx bit, a T10, we'll take that off quickly. There it is, we'll stick that to one side. And that's pretty much it for the stock, so we can put that out the way. Next we can start putting stuff back on. So the first thing we're going to do is put back our little stock tang. That goes in place of the original folding one. First thing we've got to do, get it up the right way and reinstall the cock and lever pin. Goes in exactly the same as the original one. And we can just put the 2 screws in the back there. Before I do that up tight, I'm just going to make sure that the tang's nice and straight and it's pushed all the way home, and get that nice and tight. And we'll put the cover back on this side. Right then, with that on, it's time to bring back the stock. So this is how the stock turned out. We've got all the furniture installed. We've got the butt piece at the back anodised in black. We'll have to put the rubber piece on the end there. Got our adjustable cheek piece. This is how it turned out. Really quite happy with it. The oil's taken on a nice shiny finish. We like a shiny finish here, so that's the one we went for. Again, like the Shed Wolf, this isn't totally finished yet. It does need a couple weeks for the oil to properly soak into the wood and shrink back a little. But we're really quite happy with the finish we was able to achieve on it. It's nice and glassy, nice and smooth. It really does feel nice. Nice big grip on it. We like a big grip. It's a bit longer than the original one is. So if you look, that's where the original one comes to. So it's a fair bit longer. Our stocks always need to be a bit longer. I'm quite tall and my dad is too. So a little bit extra on the length of pull is greatly appreciated. Right then, so let's get it fitted. There it is, nice tight fit in there. Next we'll bring back our stock bolt, the one in the bottom of the grip. Just drop that into the hole there. Then with a 5mm Allen key we're just going to do that up. Won't do that up properly tight yet, as we'll get this screw in first. So it's just a M5 countersunk screw in the top there. And we'll tighten up the grip screw. There we have it. Next up we can put our little cover piece on. So this is just a piece of laminate that we cut, slides in there over the top of the hole there and just blocks off the little black piece underneath. Makes it look a little neater. So there that is there. Right, and that's the buttstock pretty much done. All we got to do now is remove the rubber piece from the original one and stick it on this one. We've got the original one here, and with a 4mm Allen key we'll just take off the rubber raised butt piece, like so, and then the butt piece can be screwed on the back there. We have got adjustable length of pull, so we can bring it out, push it in a little. There is quite a bit of adjustment there. We're probably going to only have it there, but we've got more if we need it. But for now I'll just leave it fully in, and next we'll concentrate on the front. So to go along with the laminate stock, we've also made a little forend piece here. So we'll put that on next. So first we'll drop the key mod slots in, just line them up with the correct holes. Drop the forend piece over the front. And then put our screws in. The forend piece just gives you a little extra support when you're doing your stand-in shots and just makes it a little nicer off a bag. So it's got a nice flat bottom there, so you can really put it in your hand. Feels nice to do when you're standing, and it also sits on a bag really quite nicely. Right then, next up we'll swap the shroud over. So this is just the standard one on here at the moment, but I made a carbon one not too long ago. So we're going to fit the carbon one on. And here it is here. Slightly longer than the original one and much quieter. A little bit longer than the original one, and we've also got a mod on the end here, but it's an awful lot quieter. These guns are quite noisy. This is the compact version, and these are quite noisy when you get them out of the box. You definitely do benefit from a nice mod on them. The last thing we've got to do is just fit one of my cocking handles. So for these I've made a little rotating one that replaces the original. So to get the old one off, what we're going to do is just put an Allen key through the hole in the side there, undo it. And we can screw the old one off. With the old one removed, we can put our new one on. So this one is rotating. Don't know how well the camera's going to pick that up there, but that's nulled, and this blue section here rotates on the inner section. So the inner section is stationary, that gets screwed onto the cocking arm there. Using a 3mm Allen key, we'll just screw that up. We did supply a Crawley surplus store with a few cocking handles, so if you do buy a new Katran from them, they do give you that option. Right then guys, so that's the little Katran all finished. I'm really happy with the way the stock turned out. I think it absolutely transforms the little Katran. Makes it into almost a different gun. I really do like the Katran block. I think it's one of those blocks that are really well designed, really well thought out, and it seems to shoot absolutely beautifully. So with this new stock on there, it should be better off a bench. The original one was great for field work, great if you wanted to chuck it in a bag and whatnot, but it was a little lacking when it came to bench work. The stock was a little thin and it didn't really like shooting off a bag that much. This one, however, with a nice wide butt piece and the nice bag rest at the back there, should be perfect for that. You can't really complain that the standard stock that the Katran comes with, as it's just one of those things that the rifle was designed around. It was designed for field work and it does that absolutely beautifully. But this one should be great off a bench. So there's the little Katran there, set up on a rear bag and on a front rest. And the rifle now is an absolute treat to shoot off a bench. So there's our setup there. We've got one of the protector leather rear bags, a little front rest that we use for bench rest, and also we got one of our new mats. You're going to be seeing them in the future videos, and I'm really impressed with how the mats came out. So that's the small one, and we also do have a bigger one for the bench for doing the videos on as well. And that's how we ended up with the stock. So the length of pulls pulled out pretty far. I've got it exactly where I want it there. And this stock right now is probably 50 or 60mm longer than the standard Katran stock, even at its maximum length of pull. So we've added quite a lot to the end of the stock, and that's really suited me quite well. The one fatal drawback of this stock is that it no longer fits in the standard Katran box. So I'm going to have to buy myself another box, but that's not the end of the world. I didn't get any shooting footage of the Katran. You know how well the Katran shoots if you've seen my range review of the gun. On average though, I'd say the new stock's made a positive improvement to the groups. It's a lot easier to shoot, a lot easier to control, and that's reflected in the groups. This rifle is pretty much stock internally, so we've done no major changes to the internals of the gun or the barrel, but we're still easily managing 5p groups at 50 yards, and most of them are even better than that. Right then guys, that's going to pretty much do it for this video. So I hope you enjoyed the little Katran project. We're definitely going to be doing more projects in the future. I think this sort of stuff is really quite interesting. In the next ones hopefully we'll be doing more mechanical work to the guns, and we might even try and squeeze a collab or two in there as well. As a final thing before you go, I just wanted to show off the new mats we've got for the channel. So this is what all the videos are going to be done on now. Hopefully it should be better for the camera and you should be able to see everything nice and clearly still. That's the place where we got on there, riflemats.co.uk, and judging by the quality of work that these people do, you're going to be seeing a lot more of these mats in the near future. But for now guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.